Evening and welcome to tonight's Monday Live, joined by Matt Williams, our short game putting coach and fitter. Matt's very kindly joined us. He's got rid of his last client very quickly and managed to hot fit it downstairs to join us. So this week in golf, a couple of, I feel like the season's starting to take off, but we have another Patrick Reed win.
Yeah, 2 wins in 3 events, obviously a playoff and finished second. Now he's not
one shot
live.
off that win as well for the second place.
Is it motivation change, or is he now practicing more? Who knows? I think he's excited to play DP. So I think he made a comment that he wants to be an American that wins the Order of Merit for DP. So that's probably the carrot that's now in front of him, and it seems to be performing well. I don't think the standard is much different. If anything, it's a deeper field in the amount of players. So.
I was interested. Had literally just James Morrison just talking to a few moments ago about was it him getting back on tour, but about Patrick Reed himself, and he said, what a heck of a player. I think this is a guy who's always supported global events. He's played in Australia, in Asia, in Europe, Middle East. So he's well travelled with his golf, and and that. He's an old school player, and by that I mean he plays shots, he shapes the ball. His short game is incredible. Actually, James was saying about a putting drill that he saw him do once. He said he said his putting is unreal. He said he did 4 points of the compass, starting at 4 foot and going out to 20 foot, and he holed every single one.
You normally say 4 to maybe 8 foot, don't you? But not to 20. That's,
is that it? He's like, yeah, that's it, yeah.
I saw him up close in Turkey a few years ago on a trip that I ran, and he hit it as good as everyone else, but his short game was by far the standout part of his game. Dead and buried, up and down. It's like,
I'd love to see a short game off between Patrick Reed and Alex Noren. Oh, that would be amazing.
Well, as long as it's not Morikawa and Scheffler from last week. There's a lot of talk about them as well, and different coaches chucking in their thoughts. Reed's having great form ahead of Augusta, which he's a winner.
He's got to be you've got to be looking at him around there. No,
you would think so.
Well, and I think any of the majors. I think this year. I think it's just his consistency of game, and he didn't even play that well this last week and got over the line. So very impressive. And then Chris Gotterup, as you said, fourth win on tour, playoff with Hideki. James showed me a clip actually just before we came on of the chair noise in the back of Hideki's backswing of a started swing and kind of started down and stopped. Was that the 18th hole of real play, or was that playoff? That was playoff hole. So one to be. I can't. The moment I take the club away, that's it. That's game.
He has
over.
that slight pause, so that might be in his favour. But it's you had that scenario. I don't know if that was intentional, but obviously then you had the other joker, if you like, offering to pay someone $100 to shout something in someone's backswing, and I think that event kind of pulls that in a little bit.
A little bit.
I'm not a huge fan of how they've stadiumed the 16th and the hole-in-ones and all the... It takes 20 minutes to clear the green of debris afterwards. But, hey, it's one of those. I'm a traditionalist, if you like. So
yeah, I think I like the stadium nature of it, and I like the fact that it's a real feature. But you don't want that hole to take over from the tournament. But equally speaking, would the tournament be as big without it? I think golf's got to... I'm a traditionalist, but I think there are times where golf's got to just chill out and just let the crowd have their fun. I think it's one of the things actually with the live event in Australia. The Aussies, there's a similar thing there, and the play between the players and the crowd is very funny to watch. But then there is that respect when the players are playing, and I think as long as there's that line,
there's a boundary there, and I think the players like a little bit of interaction as well.
Yeah.
Was it the Denmark event? They walk through like the tented community. VIPs have got like the bars, and they're walking through from the green to the next tee, and they got walk-through music and stuff like that towards a tee. And
they always used to do one in Holland, where there was a almost like a beat the pro. They'd get. I've seen it at a few of the DP World events. Czechoslovakia, I think, where they had a youngster or an amateur come on and play with each group, try and beat the pros. I think any of that stuff's great for the game. But
definitely.
But out of interest, anything you're seeing from I'm going to ask a question before everyone else. Putters. Anything you're seeing from any of the putters this year from a actual kind of a data and a launch point of view that has surprised you?
surprised me. So far, not yet. I think everything's kind of, the changes that have come out with certain brands, they've come out for a good reason. There's still a few models that we're waiting to see from Titleist because they've delayed some of the models in the new Phantom lineup. But I think they're all performing well. The one, I don't think it's a surprise because it's a well-established model, but there's a running joke here where, you know, people are laughing when I fit someone for the Zero Torque Spider. It's one of those, I think, sales figures are great because people have maybe bought into the Zero Torque marketing from certain brands, and then they're Spider loyalists.
So you can say lab, it's fine.
Well, I mean, they've come out with a very, very good marketing piece. Yeah. And if you're a Spider loyalist, the Zero Torque model, they're just buying it. But from a fitting standpoint, it performs well.
I think the bit I like about it is that contrast. That I think the visuals, I think they do work.
The top line looks like a blade from the chrome aspect. You've got the the sight line right up against the back of the ball, which is a personal preference. Yeah. You've got the forgiveness of the Spider mallet and the Zero Torque. The thing that I really like with the model is the pure roll grooves. Yeah. Where they're angled slightly to get that ball roll well. 8-9 times out of 10, it does what it says on the tin, and quite often people are getting fit for it. Yeah. And you know, like I said in the office, there's a bit of a running joke that's saying, you know, you can fit for something else, but when the data performs as strong as it does, I'm not going to fit for something that doesn't perform as well. So
there you go.
That's the one this year so far.
Yeah, quite a few questions in. Thank you very much. We get cracking. Yeah. Dave Thurman, limited fitting options on the Isle of Wight, therefore end up buying off the shelf. How do manufacturers decide what shaft goes into drivers, etc., considering everyone is different? Ultimately, they partner up with companies, be it Fujikura with a version of a Ventus, or UST, or Mitsubishi, like the Kylie series, and essentially they just do a deal. They strike a deal. They have a range of options from a essentially soft tip, mid tip, stiff tip, and a few different models, and that's the way they do it. They're better than they used to be. A lot of the stock shafts used to be really pretty crap. They just go for cheap, and actually that hurts some of the shaft manufacturers. So, you know, go back to, for those that remember the old Matrix, the XCon 5.5 MOI that was in in TaylorMade was a really poor version of a really good shaft, and that hurt them because it wasn't good quality. So they are better than they used to be, but ultimately it's all about money. It's about doing a deal with a shaft company that's recognised and a brand that's recognised. And obviously TaylorMade have done it a bit differently. I actually have a call with TaylorMade on Wednesday afternoon, early evening, with the heads of TaylorMade in the US to go over to understand exactly what they're doing with those shafts, simply because I've had mixed messages and mixed conversations with people about it. But ultimately, most of it's money, really. Spencer Wood, Simon plays a TSR3. I've access to all the latest gear. Why not upgrade? It's similar to a barber with an overdue haircut, Mercedes salesperson driving an old BMW, or a vegan butcher. Now, it's the last one I take particularly offence to. The other ones I can stuck, but a vegan butcher, really. Ultimately, for me, it's always about performance. And just because it's newer doesn't make it that much better. Technically, there are advancements. So in principle, the new GT versus TSR was slightly better. But I have hit that club so consistently well over the last couple of years that in order to get that out of the bag, I've got to see a really noticeable gain. And I think people who come in and get fitted here will have experienced the same thing of me saying, it's got to be worth making a change. And look, there's got to be value in it. Now, for me, it's tax deductible. So the value is not the question, it's purely performance. And unless I'm going to get a tangible gain where I go, okay, that is noticeably better, I'm not going to change.
We saw that in my fitting. You fitted me back in whenever it was now, November. Obviously before product launches. But QI10 LS driver, we've tried 35, we tried a number of other models. GT3 was a strong option, but actually the cost of, and like you said, tax deductible and so on, it still wasn't tangibly better than what I had. Disappointing because I wanted something new.
And that's the other thing. Don't get wrong. I'm trying stuff, trying to find something better. But
I think we all want something shiny and new in the bag. It's just a case of you've got to be doing it for performance game and not just for a head cover.
Yeah. And we were only saying because we've got aside of the earlier questions before we started, and actually you look at the tour, you look at McIlroy, as you said, Ubering a driver to him. You look at Scotty Scheffler's gone back into QI10. You look at Ludwig Oberg last year winning at Torrey Pines between the GT2, TSR2. I think he's still in TSR2. Actually, newer doesn't necessarily mean it's better enough to kick something out of the bag. No. And it took me 7 years to change from my M4 into the TSR3. So I'm not a tinkerer. But if it's better, if it's noticeably better, then I will change. But I'm not a vegan. John Osborne, hi Simon, spin my driver low. I use a Callaway AI Smoke Max driver, being told this is due to spin loft. Can you explain this, please? Well, I'm going to give you that one for the moment.
I'll hold this for a minute.
The old spin loft. So ultimately, there's launch angle, angle of attack, spin loft. And they all are connected. And obviously, launch angle is the angle the ball takes off at, but you can get there. You can get to the same launch angle with a high and a low spin loft. So, if I hit down on it and add loft, then I can achieve, let's say probably, 12, 13 degrees. I've got to chop across it a bit to do this, but half a degree down, okay, 14. Half a degree down, and I've towed it, so it's taking spin off. Half a degree down and got it to 14 degree launch angle, but I've got to add loft to get it there. That adds spin loft, generally makes the ball go up and spin high as long as you don't catch it right out the toe. I can also get to 14 degrees of launch angle by hitting up on it a lot and taking loft off. Okay, I've launched that lower, but I've got 5 degrees of angle attack and I've launched it down at 10, so I've exaggerated it. So high spin loft is where you're adding to create launch, and that creates more backspin. And low spin loft is when you're hitting up on it and then taking loft, where you're de-lofting essentially. So you can get to the same flight and launch angle with both, but if you're someone who's an add loft, then you're delivering more spin loft. And you normally will manage angle of attack and loft on the club head and head style to manage that flight and spin, but that's the differentiation. So, okay, I've exaggerated those shot types to massively change the flight, but with 5 degrees difference in angle of attack, I've launched one 4 degrees lower, which if I was delivering the same spin loft, there'd be a 4 to 5 degree difference in launch angle.
Big talking point in wedges as well, spin loft and wedges. But yeah, throughout the bag, it's quite important. Next question, John Osborne 4529. Was on Trackman at the weekend. 105 swing speed, 156 ball, dynamic loft of 13.5 whilst using a 12 degree head.
Yep.
Angle of attack 4 up and a spin of just shy of 1500. What would be the cause of that spin?
Well, so you're doing what you haven't said what face angle is, but ultimately you're kind of doing what I did in the last one. You're definitely delivering a low loft. If you think you've got a 12 degree driver, now that 12 degree driver will measure more like 13 to 14 of actual loft, measured loft on the kind of the middle of the face. So if you're hitting up on it, is it 4 degrees?
4 degrees up.
So if you deliver stated loft and hit up on it 4 degrees, then you're about the 16, 17 degree mark. So what you're doing is you're then de-lofting by 4 or 5 degrees. That's where you're knuckling the spin off. Now it could be if you're closing the face, that's also, it's like a topspin tennis shot. You're just taking that spin. This is about a spin loft. You're then massively low spin loft. So it's a case of head style potentially will help manage spin a bit, but that spin loft delivery, that de-lofting is what's taking that down. So if you're hitting with a right to left shape, then actually the feel is going to be getting across it and hitting what feels like a bit of a trap fade to then deliver a bit more spin loft and deliver a more neutral spin profile. If you're not turning over, then you're just really not delivering loft. And so it's a case of almost trying to add a little bit of loft through impact to see a little bit more flight. But the fade feel is probably one that's likely to help deliver a little bit more flight.
Yeah, a lot of it's wrist angles at impact. You know, delivering with a bowed wrist, it's going to take loft off and potentially create that. So something to video and have a look at to see if that's what you are doing. Kev T6784. Evening, Simon. What should the shaft length be of irons as you go from 5 to pitching wedge? Thanks.
So, standard length progression would be a 1/2 inch per club down to 9 iron, and then some brands go another 1/2 inch to pitch wedge, and some go 1/4 inch from 9 to pitch. However, you don't have to build it that way. So if you're someone who's tall, but you don't want to go overly long in the longer irons, then you can actually kind of soften that progression and say go 1/2 inch, 5 to 6, 6 to 7, but then go 3/8 of an inch to 1/4 inch and keep the shorter irons longer. Or if you're, let me think, what did you do? Yeah, if you're looking to, oh no, we've gone about the wrong way. Sorry. Yeah, go 1/2 inch from the bottom end up and then tail off at the top end. Sorry, confused myself there. You can play around the lengths to suit. So essentially, if you want to keep your shorter irons longer, you can shallow out. And if you want to keep your long irons from getting too long, you can shallow out as well. But standard would be 1/2 inch per club. That was a very complicated answer to a simple question. Sorry.
It was. Peter Kendall, 1946. Hi guys, in your opinion, what is the best new driver for accuracy on off-centre hits? Thanks.
So, having done a test on the 10K style heads, Max K, last week, which that'll be coming out this week or next week, all of the Max Ks this year are darn good. The left-right dispersion pattern on all of them was really very impressive. Tough one to call between them all, but what do we see? Essentially, there was slight spin rate, backspin differentials between them, but left to right, they were all really good. What's the best one? To date, I couldn't give you a definite answer because we haven't hit them. We haven't seen enough players to be absolutely certain. But when you see that video, you'll realise why I'm struggling to find a best one because they're all very, very good.
I think it depends on delivery as well, doesn't it?
A little bit, certainly. Like some players will be, toe strike. Some are slightly safer. Like the PXGs are very good out of the toe. The Ping's very good out of the toe. If you're a little bit out the heel, the TaylorMade actually is pretty good, and the Cobra's pretty good as well. So, but ultimately they were all good. If you were playing it safe, then you'd say the Ping because they've just always been very good. But genuinely, I couldn't give you an answer as to categorically which one's best. Last year I could have done, but this year, tough one.
What would you say for last year?
The standard model Elite was actually really good across the face. Really good. Ping was very good front back for spin, but the Elite, not the X, just the Elite core model, where you can move the weight, toe and heel as well to manage strike point, that was really good left to right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Simon Langford, J5V. Evening both. While preparing tea for the better half, getting the brownie points in, can you show how much better a premium shaft would be versus a QI4D stock shaft? Obviously, there's a big price difference. Thanks.
So, well, the one thing is, I would say it's quantifying it person to person stuff. However, bear with me a moment, I'll grab a couple of things. So if you go to the next question, I'll...
Yeah. I'm going to skip down to a question I think is probably aimed a bit more at me. Ian Linfoot 2563. I play my putter at 35, but hold it at around 33. Would adding more weight to the top of the shaft, counterbalance, add more stability than adding weight to the head? Adding weight to the grip end will make the head feel a lot lighter, so it depends on your feel of stability. I would anticipate probably head weight would be better to feel a bit more mass down at the ball, where you've got a little bit of weight coming up the top of a standard length putter, as I would call it. I would anticipate adding head weight would be a good option. So depending what putter you play, that's easily doable. Say even roll, some of the TaylorMade models, and obviously Scotties, interchangeable weights. It's something that I tend to find is going heavier head weight is more preferable for the majority of players when they're looking for stability rather than going grip end. But it's unique person to person, so it's worth trying, maybe booking a fit and coming in. We'll see what your putter is currently doing and how you hold it and create a plan of action from there. Right. You got, what shafts we got here?
So I've got the low rotation shaft. And then I've got the one that I use. So Really, a lot of it is, so what you are going to see between a high-grade aftermarket shaft, consistency shaft to shaft. So that's one of the things that they have churned out thousands of these. They are lower cost, they are less high-grade material, therefore the tolerances are higher. So weight tolerance shaft to shaft, structural tolerance shaft to shaft. There's more resin in them, so there are more variables. But a lot of it is really going to be down to how well does the shaft swing for you. So, if the shaft swings well for you, you're not having to compensate. So if I just swing with this without actually adjusting, it's a little bit longer than I play as well, but if I literally just hit, then as a shaft, it's actually a little higher balance than what I play. Now, that looks a little bit exaggerated, but I've literally just 2 turns and a swish. So path's dead square, but the face is shut down. If I, again, just try and just swing, then it gets through the ball too early for me. So whilst it's the low rotation shaft, it's meant to stop it going that way, it doesn't. So it's very much about, now it's gone on quite a good flight, but, and this is the key thing, like there are a lot of questions we get asked about flex of shaft, things like that. This is the bit that's really, really, really key about shafts, is that they don't necessarily, a very stiff shaft doesn't necessarily stop you going left. A very soft shaft doesn't stop you going right. It's all about how you and the club interact from a timing point of view. So, putting in the shaft that I actually use, ultimately what it means is I can just move and collect the ball. I'm not having to, so for example, with that shaft, I'm going to have to manipulate like path 0.2. So the club is traveling towards the target, but the face is offline. Whereas with this, if I literally just stand and hit, it's a much more tip balanced shaft. I've drawn it a little bit, but it's much more down the line. So what I don't have to do, I don't have to compensate. I can just unload on it. And because what it does, it drops it into line, and then, well, I can just stand and deliver. I can just go after it. So in terms of what does an aftermarket shaft do versus a stock one, ultimately it's what does the right shaft do versus the wrong one. Stock shaft might be the best shaft for you. And actually, in that respect, it doesn't generally matter if it's lower grade, it's still going to deliver really consistent results. But if it's not the right shaft for you, then you're either over there or you're there. And that is the difference between right shaft and not right shaft, rather than stock and aftermarket. But aftermarket shaft to shaft will be better, more consistent tolerances.
Great stuff. Next question, Grelis33. Hi both, hope you're well. How much is a newer improving player's current versus future swing thought about in a fitting?
Always. It's something that you've got to take into, you do in a putter fit as well. You've got to look at where are you within your journey and how much you're working in your game. And so if you're someone who works on the game, practices and is trying to improve, then chances are your swing's going to strengthen, your technique's going to improve. So if we know what you're working on with a coach, then we can make allowances for kind of shot patterns are likely to change. And depending on what you're working on, the delivery, the flight might change a little bit. With something like irons, it's a lot easier than driver. Driver, if you're making a significant technique change, then we might fit the wrong head. So we might kind of hold fire for a bit on that. But ultimately, it's always a conversation in the fit because it shapes. If we know where your game's traveling, and as long as you're committed to making that change and you fulfill your side of the bargain and you do that swing work, then we can make allowances for that.
Yeah, 100%. Especially, I see it with putting. Obviously, I do like the lesson and fitting session, which is 2 hours. We tend to spend the first half an hour, 40 minutes, just not making changes as such. So I think golf swing, putting, it's like a DNA. We're trying to optimize it, make it healthier, stronger. We're not changing it. But we make subtle adjustments and then we fit the putter to them. as long as you remain, like you said, committed to making those changes, it's one of the first things that any of us will say in fitting is, are you having coaching at the minute?
Yeah.
Not to find out where people are going, but just like you said, to understand where they are, what their thought is, and are we fitting them for what they do now, or are we fitting them for longevity?
Yeah. Yeah. Some players go, you know, this is what I got. This is me.
Yeah.
I
not
play
interested in lessons and
twice a month. This is what I've got. And then, right, we're fitting for the here and now, and this is the, you know, fit for the best product for now. Whereas if you get a teenager getting bigger and stronger, then you have to fit around their strongest move, because that's going to become the average one. So yeah, there are lots of sides to it, but the answer is always.
The Happy Golfer 99. What a great name.
I mean, there is one.
Not if you're shooting 99, I don't think, but you never know. What are your thoughts on a thriver type setup, i.e. one regular driver plus a 12-degree driver head with a shaft a few inches shorter? What golfer tendencies or situations would suit it? Love the show.
Thank you very much. So essentially it's driver and mini driver is what you're talking about. And really the reason you'd set up a essentially kind of higher lofted driver or mini driver as an alternative off the tee, it's distance strategy or consistency, but you'd use that club to take out the 3-wood essentially, because that's essentially distance-wise where it's going to sit. So if you're not using a low loft fairway wood as a fairway wood off the ground, approaching par 5s, long par 4s, then actually does a head that's more forgiving off the tee make more sense, and then you've got a more forgiving option that, as long as it differentiates enough on distance from your main drive, from your driver, then it's doing a strategy call for you, but you're saying, right, I'm not using this off the ground. Generally, it's high-speed players that we see that most often for, because they're not using a 3-wood to attack par 5s because they never need one. It's for someone who's probably hitting their driver 310, 320 plus, and it's a 280 to 300 yard teeing off club for short par 4s to drive them. That's where most of the time we see it.
Yeah. Paul M8330. Evening, gents. Simon, can you explain how a counterbalance shaft works? Ping alter, and who it would probably suit and who it won't. Played it in the driver to get the face square impact. Have to say, it worked really well.
Yeah, so it essentially works.
Sorry, he said have to work really hard.
I really want hard to square. So I use tip balance for the same reason that someone might use a counterbalance. It's about regulating when the club head arrives and how much energy you've got to use to deliver that club head. So for someone who, as I do, who hits against the bottom end and has a stronger rotation, you'd use balance at the point at the bottom to delay the hit so that as you get to impact, the club head's arriving at the right time. For someone who generally over-rotates, if you're playing counterbalance, essentially you don't have a strong kind of squaring element to the toe most of the time. So what you're doing is you're letting the club catch up. You're getting that club head to arrive with you. So you're using balance point to control when the club head arrives. So swing weight, essentially, you could look at it as. But ultimately, it's where the main body of mass is dictates how much energy you've got to put in to get it to the ball. So you're counterbalancing to remove the energy from the bottom end to mean someone who doesn't have a lot of a collection with the hands doesn't have to work as hard to square the face up. So it generally works for someone who is a little bit of a quieter swinger in the arms, and we want to just turn and collect it and let that club head easily come through rather than needing to fetch against it. So, if you're someone who tends to have a right bias miss, then a lot of the time a counterbalance shaft can help you bring that toe round a little bit more. If you're someone who has a left base miss, a lot of the time a lower balance point helps to hit against and to square it up, to delay the hit so it squares when it arrives rather than over-rotating. There are always going to be exceptions to the rule, but you're using that weight position to help the club and you synchronise up.
Wonderful. The Yorkshire Blade, regular to the channel. Hi guys, best show on YouTube.
Oh, very
That's
kind.
down to you on that one.
Very kind.
Asked last week to try Cobra driver versus TM, and what is the best new 3-wood off the tee?
Ooh, so Secondary question, which of the Cobras, LS or core model, or the max one? So let us know and I'll grab those and compare them. Best 3-wood for off the tee. Well, you could argue that a slightly bigger head shape for off the tee. So actually GT1 Tour is quite a good fairway wood for off the tee because there's just a little bit more real estate. Having said that, yeah, there are a lot of good fairway woods this year. The TaylorMade's very strong. Almost as always, it's always going to be very strong. Let's think if there's a standout this year off the tee. Thinking through the new ones as well. I would probably say the TaylorMade because of the flight strength, but you just don't need as high a tee as you used to with heads. But yeah, and so the Callaways are strong, but they're shallower heads. So the pings and the Callaways off the ground because they're shallower, slightly deeper heads, GT1 Tour, TaylorMade off a tee, but for flight strength, TaylorMade's coming out very well. But,
just reply to core models, please.
Core models, right. Let me grab the Cobra one.
Let's have a look through. I'm gonna try and find. I saw one here. Aimed at myself. Pro V1 David. Looking at a putter fitting with a lesson, what does this involve, and should you bring along all your putters? 14 clubs of them. Yes, essentially the lesson and fitting, I alluded to earlier, we tend to spend the first half an hour to 45 minutes looking at your core fundamentals. We'll get some data from Quintec. We'll couple that with some video analysis to show you what you're doing. From there, we'll mutually create a plan of action going forwards. Something that will make the biggest difference with the smallest impact from a comfort perspective. From there, we'll then start looking at options. So if it's a case that you've got more than 2 or 3 putters and you want to find out which putter is best for you, we would generally look at what you're doing, making sure that your fundamentals are good. From there, then we would look at the options of putters. I did have a gent in before Christmas. He brought in 8 putters. He said he had another 12 at home. We ended up trying, he did book the 2-hour session. By the time we got through them all, and then he decided he wanted something different, we actually still ran out of time. So if you've got a number of putters, obviously bring the one that you're currently gaming, maybe bring a couple others that you like, but maybe not so sure on. We'll have a look at them. We'll decide which one's most suitable for you. And then if you still want to try something different, then we can have a look. But that's typically how the session would go, and all video analysis would be sent back to you post-lesson. Which one we got here?
What's the most putters someone's bought in to see you with?
It was 7 or 8 putters, I think he had. And a lot of them were substantial costs to them. You know, labs
quite
with
similar or quite different?
Full variety. Full variety. Some of it was more, I suppose, like ego putters, where he bought on impulse of look.
Right, yeah.
Others he bought because he thought that it was going to be the best performing based on value. You know, some of the lab putters with the Acra shafts and custom alignments and racking up a bill of £800 for a putter. And that's just one of the collection.
Yeah. Putters are tough because they're emotive as well. They're kind of, you can go through a period of putting well with something that actually isn't that suitable, but because your stroke's in a good place, your confidence is in a good place, but then it often falls off a cliff. So
it's that placebo effect.
People often ask me, well, how many drivers do you have? I don't change my bag very often because when it works, and to the question earlier, when it works, it stays. It's not because I know I can't beat it by, if I can by much, then it's by so little that actually the trust and the relationship are built up with that club. I just know what it does. So it's got to work really hard to kick it out bag.
Yeah. I think Phil Kenyon's got a great saying, you know, there's 3 reasons. You buy a putter for a reason, you buy it for a season, or you buy it for a lifetime. And do you know what I mean? That's the 3, that's his little phrase that he has. And you take someone like Luke Donald, who's played the Odyssey 7, obviously very different variations through the years of Versa and O-Works and so on. And no doubt he's probably looking at Tri-Hot. He's had that same model of putter, probably the same spec of putter, pretty much his whole career. Take someone like Tiger as well. That's a lifetime putter. But then you get someone like Adam Scott, who's had 8 different lab putters in the last 12 months, all very similar. It might be a lie angle change or
But that's
paintwork.
the search for the answer, isn't it? Rather than
Yeah. That's the thing. If you struggle with your putting, then you're probably going to go through a range of putters. Even at that level, they're getting well fitted, but there's that little niggle, that little itch that they need to scratch of, oh, what if that?
You sometimes got to put them on the naughty step for a bit, though. Just so they know to behave next time.
I had a few as a kid in the locker, and it used to be Saturday morning. That one feels good this week, and probably held me back a bit in my own golf, if I'm honest. But So what's this? Is the
So going to start with the core model in the TaylorMade.
Yep.
Because it was actually already on, and I've got the Cobra over there. So
Perfect.
I think in comparison-wise, certainly what we've seen out of the TaylorMade, very good spin consistency. Been impressed with it. Ball speed's been solid. Strong flight. These are both the 9 degrees. And it's a very solid feel. I think the one thing that the TaylorMade, so this is weight forward as well, 9 degrees, stand aloft, weight forward. It's a strong flight. The ability to dial in weight, heel and toe and back and front, that is a definite advantage of this head because there's lots of versatility from the hosel, the weight positions to be able to really fine tune that in. And it was quite nice.
you're going to struggle to get more out of that.
But there are a lot of heads that are stronger flight this year, but it's genuinely a very, genuinely very, very good setup. And say the versatility this year that's where it's winning quite a lot of contests, I think, in the Bay.
I think you see that across not just the metal goods, but I see it in putters. Anytime you've got versatility with weight placement or whatever it might be, it tends to hold up a little bit better. It's not a one-trick pony. Yeah. It's more suitable for more people.
Yeah. Now, Cobra, certainly from a design point of view, the POI development, talking about kind of the stability in the 3 planes, it's proven to be a very stable head, so definitely very good value. I like the looks of it. I quite like that kind of the line that's on the front. I'm just going to hold this up. See how visible that is. There's a little line there that actually helps from an alignment point of view, which I personally quite like. Looks a very, very straight face, which some people haven't quite liked. But again, the TaylorMade seems to round off on the toe. So again, horses for courses. But being a solid club and definitely one of the better value heads as well. So it's a little bit of a tinier note. It's a slightly higher launch, but both good heads. So the TaylorMade's a little bit of a flatter flight naturally. That's classic TaylorMade. They've always been that little bit of a stronger flight. Callaway have joined the one like this year, which is a interesting one. They're normally higher launch, but they're not. And probably the lowest, apart from the SLDR, possibly the lowest spin head I've ever seen is the Triple Diamond this year. But between these two, marginal difference in launch window. The TaylorMade's probably a slightly more solid feel. And the sound, because of all the composite, the note's just a little bit more gutsy. This one's slightly higher pitch note, but both very good heads from a value point of view. Cobra's going to outgun a few of them this year.
You definitely notice the sound in here with the acoustics and the size of the room. It's a bit more noticeable than it might be out on the golf course. Yeah.
There's one question I got to answer by a gent who emailed in that lives in the US. So I'll just make sure I answer this one. This is Michael Powers, and asked a question about he's been fitting to 790s with Dynamic Gold mid 115s, hits the 7-iron 30-degree launch, 30-degree 7-iron, 150-ish, 21 launch, strikes inconsistent with the main miss being thin. On several occasions he's used a set of G25s with the stock CFS 99-gram shaft and hit them perfect. It switched the pings, except the launches with 32-degree 7-irons, 25, and he loses 7 or 8 yards. What might cause the improvement in strike with the ping? Should he be using a lighter shaft, or is it a head issue? In this instance, I would 100% say it is the shaft weight. You've got a 15-gram difference. The ping shaft is a little more evenly weighted. The Dynamic Gold mid is more down the bottom. But I would say, almost with certainty, that shaft weight is the difference.
There you go.
There you go.
That looked like a long inquiry, just browsing over to that little...
No, not too bad, actually.
Not
but
too bad.
I had emailed in. I didn't want to miss it.
No, that's great.
Thank you, Michael, for the question.
Mr. Calvo 90. Good evening, gents. How similar or different are Dynamic Gold 120 shafts compared to Nippon Modus 120 shafts in terms of balance point, feel, and weight? I hear contradicting information. Thank you.
So weight-wise, until you get to the X and the TX in the Modus 120, and the Dynamic Golds are heavier. So the Modus 120 in a stiff is 114 grams, X 118, TX 122, and they're kind of 118 to 122 for the Dynamic Gold 120. So their weight generally sits at that upper end. They swing a little bit more tip heavy than the Modus 120s, a little bit. And the Modus, because the Modus is a very stiff tip and softer handle, the Modus often feel a little bit softer as well, a little more responsive. So from a swinging point of view, the 120s swing heavier and will feel a little bit more stout. And was there any other aspect to that question that I've missed?
Balance, feel, and weight.
Yeah. So yeah, feel-wise, the DGs will feel a little more solid, swing a little heavier, are on the heavier end, and the Nippons feel softer, softer / more responsive, and are a little bit lighter and swing just a little bit lighter as well.
Alistair Mack, good evening, gents. Hope you're doing well. Do you fit many players into combo sets of irons? And if you do, what's the process of establishing whether a player would benefit from a combo in a fitting?
So I would say used to do more than we are. I think what we're seeing from the iron head designs is that they're basically comboing them within the set. So if you take something like Mizuno, the M13, M15, they're developing out the face tech and the forgiveness and the ball speed through the set. Take the T150s, T100s, they're doing the same thing. Ping I240s are doing the same thing. So there's less need to combo. But if you take something like a Strixon ZXi7, there isn't the same face tech, there isn't the same kind of separation through the set. So you might well then go to a ZXi5 that has a faster face, has a little bit lower, more tungsten in the sole. The construction gains you ball speed. So you're doing it for ball speed gain, consistency of gain through the set. And in terms of fitting, we fit predominantly with 6-irons, but we've got some 4-irons that we can test with as well. And you can look at the 2 6-iron performances, you look at the 2 4-iron performances, and say, right, is there a tangible gain in terms of ball speed, forgiveness, confidence for that player? Or actually, does that hurt the flight profile? Does the spin get too low? So you can dynamically test both heads and go, no, actually there is a gain here or not. But we're doing it less than we used to, for sure.
Bit more progression through the irons now, and I think
Definitely,
manufacturers have noticed orders coming in for combo sets, and whether I'm right or wrong in this, I think sometimes they go, right, well, now we're splitting a set of irons in head-wise, and they want to manage their stock levels better as well.
There's a bit of it, and so they don't want to get left with a load of 3 and 4 irons in certain models. So actually, like say take the T100s, they now have the channel in the back and the 3 and the 4 iron, which would have been partly the reason you might have gone to a T150 or a T200, 250 in the past. Whereas actually the ball speed gain you get out of that, the heads retain the flight and spin that the rest of the T100 set does. So all of a sudden we quite often don't need to go that extra step in the 4 iron. You might then in a 2 or a 3 iron, but you're into driving iron territory at that side of things. So yeah, they're building in the combo a lot more.
Yeah. Daniel Winterbottom 5531. Hi gents, prior to a fitting, what information and details would help yourselves with a fitting? We have a questionnaire on the booking anyway.
Yeah, we don't need an awful lot. I guess potentially if there's something substantial that you're doing from a swing work point of view, just helps the fitter get their kind of head around what you might be working on before you come in. Having said that, these are all questions we'd ask at the beginning of the fit anyway, and once you start to see someone swing, then you can't really make sense of the change until you start to see what's happening in the first place. However, a bit of background info before coming is absolutely fine, but we don't need War and Peace. We're going to be finding that out during the session and testing things out. So bare bones. So if there's something you're really doing with your swing, then that's useful to know.
If you're bringing 8 putters, let us know.
Coming early.
Yeah. Shaco79, have you tested the UST Linq power core shafts? How do they compare to Ventus? Maybe you even have them and could hit them in a GT3.
Haven't got them yet. There's something that we are looking at getting in some of those lines in. In terms of from a structure point of view, there are a lot of shaft companies who've, really the Ventus have been so successful that there are a lot of similarities in products being launched in graphite design. It was VF, the power core from UST, Mitsubishi. Okay, Diamond has always been successful. The whiteboard profile is more along those lines this time. So a lot of them are are going to produce similar products. Simply, it's like when Blue Board launched. That's why a lot of them use red, blue, and white as their colour profiles for flight, or black as an alternative to white for the low launch one, but certainly blue and red for the higher launch and the mid launch. So I think we're seeing higher grade materials being used by a lot of companies, but that also means higher cost, which is actually something we challenged them to when we were out in the States of the trade show, to say, look, it's great, there's another $400 shaft, £300+ shaft. There are a lot of golfers who don't want to spend that much, but can you just make a bit less money and produce a really good low cost shaft? But so we haven't got it in yet. We are working on that, and hopefully we can have that in before too long for you.
Let's hope so. Jim Hartwell, D3K. Currently play Mizuno 241s, 2 degrees upright to stop the nose digging in through shaft droop, but my start line is too straight. There's no such thing, is there?
Depends how much shot shape you've got.
And draws. Thoughts on playing with the lie angle or swing change?
So if you're, there are a number of ways it can happen. If the lie isn't going to make substantial differences, it's not going to have a substantial effect on shot shape unless you're at least 2 degrees off. I would say do a lie test. If the lie is neutral, then it's swing. If the lie is too upright, then make the adjustment on lie first. But do a lie check first to see, is that the culprit, or actually is it just face to path and technique? I mean, there are other elements that could affect it, but ultimately,
Through shaft droop.
Look, every shaft droops a little bit. So what you don't want to be doing is taking a static position and then making an adjustment for the lie based on that. Lie is a dynamic position. So we use a chalk pen, draw a line on the ball, put it vertically on the ground, strike it, and that gives you a true picture of where that club head is coming in. I personally don't trust any of the launch monitors for lie. The GC is very good if you put those dots exactly in the right place, but if you're millimetre off, it's going to give you a couple of degrees difference. So I would take those with a pinch of salt. We've had people come in and go, oh, my lie's at 8 degrees off. Not possible to be 8 degrees off, but because the dots they put on are measured incorrectly. So dynamically test the lie first, rule that out, or rule it in as the culprit. And if it's substantially off and the toe's up and the line's pointing towards the toe end, then make that adjustment back down and then see what that does first. But if the lie's correct, then it's technique.
Yeah. Driving Range King. What a great name. I think we're all Driving Range King, aren't we? Can you recommend a similar shaft to Aldila Rogue MSI 95 60 gram stiff? Please?
So those were kind of mid to low 60s, mid-responsive. They had a bit of stability to them. It's going to have a little bit more feel. Fuji Pro Blue is going to have a little bit more response to it, but that's in that 63-4 gram region. It's fairly inoffensive from a balance point of view. C6 Blue probably isn't quite stable enough. The Pro Black's a little tip balance. I'm just glancing down the line just to kind of think here. Actually, something like a Graphite Design, the GC6, maybe slightly more tip responsive, but that's going to swing relatively similarly, and that's down that 62 gram as well.
Next we have Mario Payer 5885. I did a Mizuno iron fitting last year and used the Mizuno Swing DNA tool. I liked it because it saved me a lot of swings on my wonky knees. Would like your thoughts on this.
So,
it's an interesting tool, isn't it?
It depends on the skill of the person who you're seeing for the fitting. The DNA tool, I've had people who it's given good results for. I've had horrendous results for it. For me, it churned out. I'd done up my gold and a nip on 950. It was not physically possible they can both be right. But it's a way of trying to idiot-proof fittings ultimately, because it can't tell you how in sync you and the club are. But if you have someone skilled who's using that as a baseline, then that will then lead to a good result in the fitting. But yeah, it's not something we use simply because it spews out too many options. And whilst it does detect a certain amount of the strain on the shaft, it's a very good tool for them to use en masse. But I've seen some horrendous results out of it because, yeah, ultimately you still need a skilled person operating it to give you the right options. So, yeah.
I often found it made the head feel quite light because you got this bit more mass within the shaft and the playability. Yeah. It's a standard fitting head. It's I've been fit on it before and it's been ballpark. I've always had to kind of play around a little bit, but knowing I've always used kind of maybe 3 iron shafts throughout my whole playing career, I knew what was what. I've gravitated back to the same shaft I used 8-9 years ago now. So it's good for certain people. Like you say, I think it depends on who the fitter is and how they use it. Yeah. Essentially.
And that's always going to be the key, isn't it? You know, there are so many extra tools. It's a bit like the motion analysis, stuff that's coming with TrackMan, that's out there with Sportsbox AI, that's out there with some of the other systems there that the tracking can give you, but it doesn't give you an answer. It gives you the details and the data from a TrackMan to interpret. You still got to interpret it to get to the right answer, and that is currently still the case for sure.
Yeah, it can't be used as a crutch.
Oh, lots of questions, right?
Lots of questions.
I think James has basically given us a hurry up.
Mercury Source. Will Titleist GT drivers drop in price in the UK similar to those in the States?
They already have. They did the beginning of the year. So, yeah, they are at the reduced price right now.
Polo 1928 V2E. Simon, are you thinking about putting some new clubs in your bag this year? Or do you keep your club? We answered this one kind of early, haven't we?
I'll be upgrading wedges at some point this year because I've had them a few years. Don't play enough to need more regularly. I'm always looking. I'm always intrigued to see like driver, the stability off centre. I'm intrigued to see, can I beat mine by much? Jury's out. Maybe, but it's got to go some to kick something out of the bag.
Wonderful. Moo12569. If I were trying to get my iron shift swing weight shaft, I guess. Yeah, iron shaft swing weight up using lead tape. Basically, I want to take my 90-gram shafts to 110. Where on the shaft would I apply the tape?
You're gonna use a lot of lead tape. Basically, you've got to put. If you're trying to take your 90-gram shafts to 110, you've got to put 20 grams of lead tape on it. So you basically got to put you've basically got to put a line all the way down the back of the shaft. Honestly, I don't think that's a great idea. I think if you're trying to take your 90-gram shafts to 110, get some 110-gram shafts. That's just the better way to do it. Because the structural rigidity's there. You're just going to, the lead tape's going to probably need replacing and chipping. Yeah, I
bag wear in and out.
Yeah, but essentially, evenly down the shaft, if that's the way you're going to go with it. Yeah.
Wonderful. Sully Sad 3266. My driver club speed is around 90 to 95. Recently got fitted for a Ventus Red reg, but in D9 swing weight. Ooh. Isn't that too heavy?
There's always a chance it might be right, but I doubt it. D9 swing weight is, you haven't given us the length. If it's 2 inches over standard or 1.5 inches over standard, i.e. if you're 46 inches or longer, there's a chance it might be a reasonable swing weight. Realistically though, it's incredibly unlikely that that's correct. Incredibly unlikely, especially at that kind of swing speed. It's a sledgehammer. And yeah, I'd have a look at that very quickly.
Andy JM 7100. Pros and cons of the outer CB 55 reg for an 85 swing speed. Neutralish flight. Any other shafts to consider?
There are about 100 technically other shafts you could consider. I mean, the advantages are it's not a heavily counterbalanced shaft. It's very even, it's smooth, it loads easily. It's a very user-friendly shaft, so you're not going to have to work hard with it. And another pro sort of upside of it, it's a stock shaft. You haven't got to pay extra for it. Cons, if it's the wrong balance point or kind of or dead weight, then your timing is going to be off. You're going to miss. You're going to have quite a spread in shot pattern. So ultimately, there are so many shafts out there that are alternatives in a 50 to 55 gram playable option. You know, Vista Pro C6, Acra the GT. There are an awful lot. You can take any brand of shaft, Fuji Pro Blue. There's going to be an option that's an alternative. But I just couldn't give you a more definite answer other than it's cheap, it's easy to use, it doesn't swing heavy.
Sonny Sad back on 3266. Could you please explain shaft puring? Is it done on graphite shafts or just iron shafts?
Done on both. So puring is a bit like balancing a car wheel. So steel tends not to be straight. It's like a snooker or pool cue. You roll it, the tip flips. With graphite, structurally there are more variances. This is a little tool that kind of displays essentially what puring does. So a pured shaft, the most stable point is target side. So the shaft, as it loads and recovers, will recover onto that plane. So essentially it's like doing that. It's very stable, there's no extraneous movement, it's not looping around. If you put it on the soft plane, because it's a hard plane and a soft plane, it goes back and forth in line, but it moves a little bit more. If you take it out of plane, I try and move it back and forth, you can see it wants to pull. So I'd liken it to balancing a car wheel, or if it's out of plane, it's a bit like a dodgy shopping trolley wheel. You try and go straight, it tries to take you that way. An unpured shaft will twist offline, will give you a little bit more shock pattern, will give you a slightly higher spin tolerance. This means less stability of club-headed impact. So if a well-fit club, built well and pured, gives you the most consistency you can possibly get.
Maka09, he's got a couple of questions, so in the interest of trying to speed through them, we'll answer both at the same time. Great show as always. Where would one go to learn more about club fitting? Tech side's intriguing. The second question is, what shaft do you use in your driver and what putter do I use?
Sinister 65 stiff, there's a VA Composites in my driver. Where do you go to learn? Fit it's a tough one. There aren't many places you can really get into the detail of it because most of the places that could do it are people like us who are doing it day in, day out, but actually we don't have the capacity to train someone. There are some courses that you can do, like over here, Diamond Golf have done one where there's a kind of basics in club fitting and building, but it's generally the basics of it. The real nitty gritty you're going to find from the specialists, but the specialists don't have time to train most of the time. So it's a very tough one. Yeah.
Putter wise for me, I'm currently using the Scotty Cameron Squareback 2. So for me, I quite like the blade look of the top line and then the stability on the back. Playing that at 2 degrees loft, so taking a bit of loft off it. 30 gram weights in the head rather than 10, 34-inch length. So, Philly Central, hi gents, can swing C-taper 120 shafts and irons with no issues. Hazardous black 60 in my driver feels like a ton. Any suggestions why that would be?
We're going to be generational hazardous black, but the only thing could be length and swing weight. So if it feels like a ton and you can swing a C-taper 120, which is a much stronger overall kind of balance profile, then have a look at what length and swing weight it is. If it's 45.5 inches and it's D7, there's your answer. Take some of the length off, get some of that balance down. You try and match swing weight on your driver at a kind of standard 45-inch length. If you're at a standard length on your irons, get the swing weights pretty close. What we've tended to find over the years that's often the case, that they're often very similar.
Wonderful. The next question is aimed at me. So, hey guys, love the show. Was down last week having a lesson with Stu. Best facility in the UK.
Thank you very much.
I would agree. Got fit in Newport 2 Plus with L-beam plumber's neck. Fancy trying a spider. Am I right? I need the L-neck. It depends. Obviously, a spider is a very different head shape to the Newport 2. Newport 2 Plus. Newport 2 Plus is basically like a deeper blade. So it's not a mallet design, so how you release the head may differ. But by all means, have a look on the diary, get that booked in. If you've purchased the Newport 2 Plus, because it wouldn't have been fit with me, because I don't recognise the name, if you've got it and you've got questions about it, bring it in, we can have a look and see. But yes, it's worth trying. It's worth also noting that the spider putters, there's just no supply of them at the minute. Even if we were to fit one, we're looking probably May, I think it is, end of April delivery. So supply, demand, there's just not much coming through at the minute for one reason or another. So it's worth considering. But yeah, it's not a necessity that you would have to keep that neck regardless the putter. So worth trying.
Right, how many have you got left?
Ooh, we'll try and quick fire through the next 8.
Quick draw a few of them.
Chi therapy could do with some of that. My swing speed is 95 to 105 miles per hour. Stiff is many times too heavy and regular shaft too weak. Any idea why? Is it kick point? Thanks for the great videos, Rob.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's like ultimately it's just not finding the right shaft. So you can get light and stiff, you can get heavy and soft. So actually, it might be a case of if you're going into a stiff and it's 65, for example, and that's too heavy. Well, there are plenty of stable 55 to 60 gram shafts that might well suit the bill, but chances are you've probably got to go aftermarket or out of stock options to find it. But there will be a shaft that will give you everything you want, from a stout feel at a lightweight to a soft feel at a heavier weight. So there are loads of options out there.
Yeah, I think
you've got to go somewhere you can test them.
Yeah, stock might not be the best option.
Yeah.
Grelis 33. So I'm wanting to improve a lot. You say driver fitting can sometimes be a bad idea as the fit will be wrong with a different swing. I also swing too fast for my own good, 115 to 120, which is strong. Is it worth just doing irons, wedges and putter for now?
Yeah, it's not always a bad idea to do driver, but depending on what you're going to be changing, it might be that you take a kind of reference marker and say, look, work on these other bits first. But yeah, certainly, if you swing fast, then you swing fast. That's actually something to that's a great weapon to have. But it just might be that there's certain setups that are going to just rein it in and give you the control that you need. But the worst thing you can do is try to control it, because your muscles work at that speed for a reason. So, but yeah, certainly if you want to have a look at the irons and the wedges first and get that side of the bag settled, that can often help the swing settle, and then that can translate to driver, and then that can follow on. But yeah, that would be a sound idea.
Richard Skinner 50/50. Great show. Simon, is there a difference between Quantum TD Max and Callaway Smoke TD Max?
Yeah, big one. Yeah, Quantum TD Max is much lower spin, much lower flighted. So Smoke Triple Diamond Max was pretty moderate in terms of flight, mid-launch, still strongish on spin. Quantum Triple Diamond Max, I've been surprised at how low a launch and spin it is, proportionate to where Callaway normally would be. So we're not going to do too many Triple Diamonds this year, simply because Triple Diamond Max is already that strong in flight. He's
already gaming the Elite Triple Diamond with Artera shaft. Is the Quantum worth the upgrade?
If the flight's in a good place with your Elite, unlikely the Quantum is going to pull that flight down. I did a test last week, Elite Triple Diamond versus Quantum Triple Diamond. There's a 2.5 degree difference in loft, in launch angle, and 500, 600 revs in spin. So if your Elite Triple Diamond is working well, you're going to be getting good ball speed, good launch, good spin. It's unlikely to make a really big difference. But if it's not working for you, then you'd like to see, if it's going a bit too high, for example, then yes, Quantum will bring that flight down.
Okay. Handful more to get through. Chris McAteer 7912. Hey Simon, sure you won't have there now, but how would a G440K with Tensai Black 6X compare with the old 10K Max in Carly White?
So the Tensei Black swings a little bit heavier. Both stable, both mid-low spin. So I scrunch my eyes to kind of think of. Actually there's a video coming out between the 430 10K and the current 10Ks. Actually, the new ones are more stable. They are a little bit straighter. They are a little bit more consistent across the face. So the head is going to give a little bit more stability than the 430 10K. Just a little bit more spin consistency. But the shafts, the Tensei 1K Black, will swing a little bit more tip heavy than the Kylie White.
Superb. Crow 3. Good morning from Australia. Other side of the world.
I won't insult you by saying
if all putters
that we all assume you say.
G'day.
Yeah,
I'll say it. If all putters swing on an arc due to lie angle, why do face balance putters exist? A lot of it comes down to the degree of arc. So more blades, toe hang putters, they will arc more, therefore they need more rotation. More manatee style putters generally have less rotation to match the less arc. Typically somewhere between 12 and 21 degrees of arc on a putt and stroke, depending on the player's preference and the putter. So that's why there's variance in balance of face, face balance, medium toe hang, severe toe hang. There's a variation depending on what the head design is meant to do from an arc perspective.
And so from a player's point of view as well, you get, so for me, if I don't have toe hang, I loop it and I pull it. So it helps me to drop it inside and then
Release
my miss is left. So it kind of, there's more to hit against. If you're someone who struggles to square the face, you want to remove any resistance to squaring the face up. So you're going to go more face balanced or more towards the kind of the zero torque. If you're someone who over rotates it, the last thing you want is one of those.
Same person's also put, thoughts on the new Wilson Staff irons family? I missed the chrome.
They look very nice. They haven't brought them in to see us yet, but hopefully we'll see them very soon. But they do look good, yeah. And initial reports seem really solid.
I'm going to say this right. Ming Takun 6242. Hi all, love your show, good work. Recently noticed Fujikura Ventura shaft are made in Vietnam instead of Japan. Is there a drop in quality or consistency?
Some of it is just, they've had to up some of their production. Some models are made, so if you take Mitsubishi, some of their models are made in Japan, some are not. So if you take the Vanquish Green, the very lightest weight are made in Japan, the 3s, but the 4s and the 5s of the same model aren't made in Japan. So some of it is just about managing production. Post-COVID, they've split production in a lot of the cases so that if one manufacturing plant goes down, they can still manufacture. So there are a lot of things that have changed in the post-COVID era, just from making sure that you're not putting all your eggs in one basket. So some of it is just that.
And last question, possibly won't have time to do this, but hi guys, could you hit the new G440K against the LST to see the difference in numbers?
Not going to do that right now, seeing as we're already 6 minutes over, but we'll log that one and we'll do that first thing next week. I'll make a note of that, yeah.
Otherwise, full house done.
Yeah. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
As ever. Always, this will be kind of every now and then. Matt will reappear on your screens like Mr. Ben for those that are of a certain vintage, British, no doubt.
I've got my look apparently as well. So,
well, the shopkeeper. Yeah. So thank you for joining us again. So many great questions. We're really grateful for it, and the interaction it just gets better and better. So without you guys, we couldn't do this show. There are some other guests coming on in the coming weeks, so stay tuned for some guests who actually can offer some tour insights, no doubt. But thank